love the show. I love you guys. Fucking, let's go Jets. Jets, Jets.
Can't all be beautiful.
You're in the danger.
And we are live. What is up, everybody?
I
Welcome
like that on the left side there a little bit. You had me going. I was feeling.
You know what? Hey, there you go, man.
Hey, left side,
guys.
lefty.
Here he goes. You're gonna get big-headed on me now. No.
Left side, strong side. No. Only the real ones get that quote. What's going on, Dane? How we doing this Friday night?
Man, we are live already. It seems like these shows come so fast, man. Honestly, I thought there'd be a lot more to chop up in the past 6 days, but we got a little bit, man. And we also, there's so much draft content that like it lets us take a beat and look at another prospect. So my week's been good, man. How's your week been?
Busy as always. The weather's warming up, so Coke products are flying off the shelves, which means Daddy is busier than ever. But yeah, the week flies by, man. But there's always stuff to talk about with Jets content, especially as we're knee deep in free agency already, and we're starting to inch towards that draft time a little bit, you know. And it's a lot to talk about.
Facts, man. About time to get that summer bod going. You know, I usually put on about 80 pounds of muscle this time of year. So, you know, stay subscribed, guys. You'll get to see me flexing all summer. Hit that like button while you are here. And again, welcome in, man. Appreciate you guys joining us on a Friday night. Yeah, we got some shit to talk about, man. And we have our first two-time guest in the Danger Zone, minus Scott, because he's basically, you know, a brother. We have tonight Nolan Rich from Rich Sports Talk. I'm just going to bring him out, Murph. Are you ready for this?
Hey, let's get rolling with Nolan.
Hey, I like that, man. Without further ado, follow, while you're at it, the Rich Sports Talk channel on YouTube. Also follow him on Twitter. Without further ado, Nolan Rich. What's up, my dude?
What's good? I guess I should have called the show Rolling with Nolan. Hold on. I got to flex the muscles, hold up the show right now. Hold on. I got to get you guys there. All right. Gonna get that shoulder workout tonight, baby. I'm excited to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on. And of course, my favorite time of year, draft talk, already going through all the mock drafts and all the different scenarios. And already already getting into jet fights on my channel about tight end versus tackle, the ever famous topic this time of year in Jetsdom. It's like after the quarterback debate, the next one is taking a tackle or a tight end. It just seems to be every single year.
You know, Murph says it best. He's like, he calls it eating our vegetables when you take a lineman, man. I just don't know if I want to do it twice in a row. But what I will say is on this channel, especially, we've been so laser focused on Graham versus Warren versus McMillan. Then the combine happened, man, and Tet didn't run. And that pissed me off. I know it pissed others off. But also, guy by the name of Armand Membou went and he just obliterated everything you put in front of him. As a matter of fact, I saw a video today of him running faster than Jameis Winston at the combine. Dude is an enormous man. And he has been thrust into the Jets media circuit, their fan circuit. Everybody's got him up in the top 10 now. Everybody thinks now that Morgan Moses left, he's a natural fit for us. We haven't barely talked about him on this channel, so we have to talk a little bit about him tonight. And like you said, you're a draft guy. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on Membou. So we'll get into that. Guys, again, hit the like button. Also follow Nolan's socials in the description, please, because he and I, Murph, all of us just do straight Jets talk. I mean, we deviate. I think you do a little Giants talk, but we don't do like a lot of the nonsense. So if you need your news, come to one of us because you're gonna get it.
Breaking news also on Rich Sports Talk.
Facts. Dude, he was
The other day.
Yeah.
Nolan was one of my go-to plugs for like as soon as a regular season game would end, he would be going live. And like it was really good to get like first reactions voiced on his channel. But anyways, go ahead, Nolan. What do you think of the whole Membou being like thrust up the list with his combine performance? And like, what do you just see out of him as a whole?
There's a lot of things that I think really have happened. And really, I think when Jet fans, we entered this offseason, I think we had a roadmap. And one of the roadmaps we looked at was, okay, we'll bring Morgan Moses back on a one-year deal. And then we can find a guy day 2, learn for a year behind him, and ease into the transition. Unfortunately, Morgan Moses signed with the Patriots, and you can't blame him. He got a massive contract, a multi-year contract. And the other big thing, I think the most shocking thing was I was like, okay, he's going to go Kansas City, maybe back to Baltimore. So like some competitor. The fact that he went to the Patriots was a little surprising. But now all of a sudden, we're back in this tackle purgatory where I think the Jets have their answer at left tackle. The problem is we've had this musical chairs for years between the two tackle positions. And last year was really the first time, I think, in a long time you felt comfortable about the tackle position because you had a Hall of Famer at left tackle. Again, didn't work out, but then you had Olu in the wings behind both the tackles, and you had Morgan Moses on the right side. You're like, you know what? This could work. This is a good plan. Now, all of a sudden, we are one injury away from Max Mitchell or Carter Warren playing tackle, and we all know how that has turned out. So I think when you look at this draft too, the reason Membou really jumps out to me, and I've had to talk a lot of people about this on my channel, is yes, the Jets need a weapon. They need multiple weapons. But when you look at the strength of this draft, you can find a valuable tight end on day 2. There's a bunch of really talented tight ends. This is a weird offensive line class because while it is a deep offensive line class, there aren't many pure tackles. A lot of these tackles you're going to see are going to get kicked inside the guard because they don't have the foot speed, they don't have the length. And Membou is really the one exception that I could see staying out right tackle. He's a physical mauler, and he brings something that the Jets don't really have which is a nasty streak to him. And the things that really stood out to me watching him was 411 pass block snaps, only allowed 9 pressures, 0 sacks last year. And the big thing is I look for in the run game is when your team needs a crucial conversion, when it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and you just need that first down. Do they run behind you? Are you the guy that they run behind? You watch that tape, they run behind Highway 79 at 332 pounds. He really can get up the field, can move people. And I've gotten into a lot of debates with Jet fans because, look, I understand the love affair with Tyler Warren at 7. I understand a lot of the different positions, but I just look at the drop-off after the top tackles. There's a significant one. And there really isn't a guy who I can see day 2 or day 3 that personally I feel comfortable competing for a starting opening day 1 job. And we'll talk more about the tight ends. We'll talk more about the weapons. But I saw a great tweet the other day, which I think is very important, which is I saw a debate about, well, you don't need to draft tackles high. You don't need to draft tackles high. They showed the 14 playoff teams this year. And when they drafted their right tackles, 8 of them drafted them in the first round. About the other 5 or 6, second to third round, only 1 or 2 teams drafted their right tackle after round 3. So it tells you there is a significant drop-off in tackle talent as you go through the draft. And when I look at Membou, to me, he just feels like a safe pick, and it just plays to the strength of the draft where you can address receiver, tight end, later on in this draft, defensive tackle, where I feel like if you miss out at the tackle at 7, this could get kind of ugly, especially on the offensive line.
Dude, I was watching some of his clips, and it's like anytime you ran behind Membou, he would create space. I also heard that he could play pretty much 4 spots on the O-line.
Right.
The only thing, like I know that today I was watching a video from Luke over at Play Like a Jet. If anybody wants a deep dive into Membou, please check that out. Very good breakdown, 12 minutes, and goes through a bunch of his plays.
Yeah, he does.
He's got a really good ghost punch. He does. He's very patient when it comes to setting up blocks and stuff. Zone running though to his side looked fantastic. Also. Something to keep in mind, though, and I do get why people don't want to go O-line again, is that 4 times in the last 6 years, 4 times, we've burnt a top 15 pick on an O-lineman. So, like, I get it. I guess where I'm at is, like, why didn't you just re-sign Moses? Resign Moses, and then you can draft whoever the hell you want. But like, that's not a long-term answer. I get the strategy behind drafting Membou, but like, is he that good? Is he worth skipping on Warren, who I think is going to be great? Graham, who would be the best player we've ever put next to Quinnen Williams. Tet, who would round out that room. Like, I mean, come on. I guess he would bring that room up off of the flat line. So like, talk to me there. Daniel, I want to hear from you as well. Like with the eating the veggies again, whichever one of you want to go first.
So my big thing is, I'm sorry, I'll just go really quick.
Fine.
So the 2 things that I want to respond to that first is drafting early and then addressing the other needs. So I'll start with drafting early. I hear this narrative, especially from a lot of Jet fans. Oh, you can't go back-to-back years drafting a tackle first round. You can't go back-to-back years drafting a first tackle. Jets fans, when was our last great run of success? It was between 2006 and 2010. Do you know what started that off? It was the 2006 draft. What did the Jets do in that draft? Remind me. Oh, that's right. They took not 1, but 2 offensive linemen in the first round. You may have heard them, DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, and Nick Mangold. So it matters about getting the right players. And I do think one of the picks that the Jets have made, we'll come back to it later in the video, is a key piece to why I'm also drafting Membou. And the other thing we were talking about was the other options. Mason Graham, of course, really great player. We're talking Tyler Warren, great player. And when I'm saying to draft Membou over them, it's not that I don't like them as prospects. I think all three of the guys you mentioned are top 10 picks, will make an instant impact. The thing is, it is so hard to find really good starting tackles after day one of the draft. This is a tremendously deep tight end class. You can get a starting caliber 10, maybe not an A prospect like Warren, but a B plus prospect on day two. Defensive tackle, yes, Mason Graham is unbelievable, but this is one of the deepest interior defensive line drafts in years. Like when you look at the top 75 players, 14 of them are defensive linemen. This is an incredibly deep draft where we're going to look at it and basically can see starters in round 4 or 5. And I also look at what the Jets did in free agency. They added 3 defensive tackles to the depth chart. I think that they might take a shot at a defensive tackle, but part of me wonders how much they value Leonard Taylor in this rotation. I think he had a surprisingly good season last year. And the one position they really addressed in free agency where they added multiple people was defensive tackle. And I understand they're not names that excite you. They're not names that jump out at you, but they're mid-20-year-old defensive tackles with a bit of upside. And it kind of tells me that I feel like this front office is going to look at maybe they'll add a defensive tackle day 3, but I don't think it's going to be as high as a priority as some of us really think it's going to be.
There's a lot of different ways to look at the draft, man. Like the thing about it is like we have holes. Even after our initial bouts of free agency, like we have holes. Like tight end is a hole, tackle's a hole, safety's a hole. Like there's you can keep going on, but there's a lot of different ways you can tackle this. But there's things that you have to keep in mind. Everybody that has paid any attention to the prospects in the draft this year will tell you tight end is deep. Mm-hmm. Now you have to look at it as like, do you value that the top guy, the top tight end is just that much better than every other guy and he's just a can't miss guy? Some people do think that, right? Some people disagree and they're like, hey, we can get a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round that can give us equal or almost equal to production. I don't know. But when you made a good point, right? With the 06 to 010 offensive line was that was our cornerstone, right? There were several years with the Dallas Cowboys, like they took lineman, first round every year, and then they had a stud line for a decade, and now like Zach Martin's finally going to retire and stuff, and it's finally died down. You know, they don't have Tyron Smith anymore and stuff like that. But man, that line was incredible for years. And it allowed them to have a solid offense, whether they were pounding the ball behind DeMarco Murray for an obscene amount of carries in a year, or slinging it behind Tony Romo, or even Dak Prescott was able to step in and have success right off the bat because he had time, man. So there was a lot. There's a lot of success to come with having a solid line. So contrary to how I actually eat in real life, I'm a big fan of eating your vegetables, man. If you got 5 first-round prospects on the line or on your O line that you drafted, I'm all about it, man. I love it. But for me, if I'm eating, like I'll grill 2 steaks and call that a whole meal, and we'll be good to go. And when we come to draft talk, eating your veggies is good with me, man. As far as Armand Membou, I think that his run blocking is a little it's not bad, it's just a little inconsistent. Mm-hmm. But like you're going to see that with a lot of college prospects. Like you're not going to have a perfect player coming out of college. Like there's a reason these guys like get coached. Like there's a reason that they pay coaches in the league is so they can tighten up these things. I think he's a little inconsistent in the run blocking. His pass blocking is pretty good, pretty damn good. There's not much to argue with there. Mm-hmm. There's not too many bad reps even on tape, I think, for him. I think he's probably the best tackle prospect in the draft this year. I don't know that I would call him a blue chipper or like a generational guy or something like that. Which when you're at 7, you're kind of in that that range where it's like,
Yeah,
can we get a blue chipper? Maybe, but at the same time, it feels like we're not there. So, like, if you're not there, would you rather just trade down? I don't know. So, he might be a fit for us at 7. I'm not against it. I'm not against eating the veggies. He's a good prospect. I don't think he's like an A+ tier prospect. I think he has potential to be an All Pro in the league if because he's got the traits, man, and I like his like willingness to finish. Nolan, I think you might have said it earlier. He is I don't know the word that you used, but like he's feisty. Like he will finish his blocks and he will play through the whistle. He's got the tenacity. He's got the mindset. He looks like a good prospect. So yeah, Membou, I wouldn't be upset with the Jets taking him. I wouldn't be upset with doing the whole eating your veggies thing once again. But when the hell are we going to get an elite tight end too at the same time? And what the hell are we doing across from Garrett Wilson too? There's just
right.
Speaking of which, Conklin signs with the Chargers today, so we can't even bring him back on a rental deal, which is what I wanted to do. But hold on, I just want to show today, guys. I put a poll up on my Twitter, and I'm not Buffalo Jet fan. I can't get hundreds of votes in, but I did get a lot. I got 14. Of those, only 2 people said that they don't want us to take one of either Membou or Warren. So 12 out of 14 people, maybe, roughly, we'll say 11 out of 14 people, they think it's one of those 2 guys. So what do you think about that, Nolan?
I think going back to a little bit of the question too, like I don't think also this is a unbelievably talented draft. Like I want to start off with that. Like we talk about blue chippers, and one thing I think what has kind of happened with Jet fans, and I have another point too with the offensive line, but I'm going to start with this first. Last year on my channel, I would get in a debate on every episode until draft night, even after draft night, and even during the season last year about drafting Olu over Brock Bowers. And I kind of feel like in Jets fandom, and I might be wrong, but it kind of feels like they have that FOMO that we didn't get Brock Bowers last year, and that this year Tyler Warren is that Brock Bowers. Now, I do think he's the better blocking tight end than Bowers. But Bowers also, in a much deeper and more talented draft, didn't go until the mid-teens. And now we're talking about taking a tight end who, again, I think is a better blocking tight end, but I don't think he's as dynamic of a pass catcher as Bowers was last year at number 7. So I think that's a little bit – I think a lot of Jet fans are kind of missing out on last year. But again, Olu, I think, was the right pick. The thing we're forgetting too, and I think – a lot of times we forget this. This is a whole new regime. They did not draft Joe Tippmann. They did not draft AVT. They did not draft Olu. And while I do think they're going to value these guys, we don't know how they view them. And this leads me to the point I've been kind of teasing, which is, what does this new regime think of AVT? Because we've talked a lot about contracts, about Sauce, about Garrett, about Jermaine, about Brees, and obviously so. But AVT is going to be up for a contract. And a part of me wonders, do they view this pick as getting Membou as not only solidifying the right side, but it gives them wiggle room in case AVT walks next year? Because as much as we love and respect AVT, and I don't think he's getting moved to right tackle, if AVT has also missed almost 2 full seasons with significant lower body injuries with Achilles. And it was great to see him go through a whole season. But if he gets nicked up again next year, and I think that's one of the reasons why they brought in the backup center plan so they can kick Tippmann over to guard in case to fill in if needed for a long term. Maybe that this hedges the bet where if you lose AVT, you still have your tackle set, and it's a lot easier, I think, to find a developmental guard or a plug-and-play guard as opposed to a tackle. Because this is also a long-term build. You're looking at this new regime. They're looking to build this out long-term. They're looking to build the trenches up. That's what Detroit did. Like, look at what Detroit did. Ironically, 2021, the Lions had, guess what? the 7th pick in the draft. What did they do at the 7th pick in the draft? They could have had a bunch of dynamic playmakers. They could have gone quarterback. They went with Penny Sewell. Now, again, Penny Sewell is a much better prospect. He was probably the best all-around prospect in that draft. But it shows you the emphasis that Detroit put on the trenches. They didn't necessarily need him. I mean, that's one of the reasons he moved to right tackle. A lot of people thought he was going to be a left tackle, but they moved him to right tackle. So I get the idea of you wanting to add a playmaker. I completely understand it. And I get Tyler Warren, I still think is a top 10 player in this draft. If the Jets draft him at 7, I'm not going to be sour about it. But to me, if I can get like an Elijah Arroyo or a Mason Taylor in round 2, I think those are 2 very good tight end prospects that can be day 1 starters for the Jets. I mean, if you wanted to do like Ted McMillan at 7 and pairing with the tight end in the 2nd round, I think that almost could be a better option. But it just feels to me that all options have to be on the table because we don't know how this new regime feels about AVT. Maybe they love AVT. Maybe they're going to want to bring him back long-term, but maybe they're already looking long-term saying, is it better for us to fix the tackle position and address guard next year? And if AVT leaves in free agency, gets a big contract, guess what that means? It means a good comp pick's coming back to the Jets. So I do think that they want to keep as many options open. And if they don't address the tackle position, it's a problem this year and they lose AVT, you're talking about replacing the whole right side of your line potentially next offseason, which I don't think is a really good idea.
Yeah, see, and I'm glad you brought up AVT because like this, I feel like this conversation goes hand in hand. Like if you told me last year that, hey, we're going to have a serviceable right tackle and we're going to choose not to we're going to let them test the waters of free agency. And then a couple weeks later, we're going to turn around and say, we need to use our first on a right tackle now. If you do that to me again next year by letting AVT walk or John Simpson walk and say, oh, we need to get a guard now, this is going to be a never ending cycle. And I get guards you can take later, but still like we want continuity with all 5. So if you want to take Membou, fine. But I also want you to go and lock in AVT for me. I want you to work with John Simpson, and I want all these guys to be here in 2026. Decide it now, because you're not going to gaslight me. And then next spring, oh, we got to take another premium O-line. Like, let's get it done. Get it done.
No, and I agree. But I think the hard part with, and I think you have a good idea now. I think Sauce and Garrett make sense because they've proven to be superstars. But a part of me thinks this new regime kind of wants to see how it works with Simpson and AVT. I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets had a couple midseason extensions. I know that's a novel concept that Joe Douglas didn't do over the last couple seasons. But I think John Simpson, if you had to ask me today, what guard I think gets a long-term extension, I think it's Simpson over AVT just because of his durability. As great as it was to see AVT play every game last year, if you're a GM and if you're coming in, and I think Muji's going to do this, he's going to look at AVT, even if AVT has a Pro Bowl season at right guard next year, he's going to go to him and say, look, you missed almost 2 full seasons with an Achilles. You're going to be 28 years old. I mean, you're one serious injury from maybe not even being the same player again. So I do think that that is something that the Jets have to also plan long-term. Great GMs don't just plan for the upcoming season. They plan for seasons in advance. And I think that's what this team is doing. They didn't get into bad contracts. They looked at a lot of young up-and-coming players going into their primes at 24, 25, or 26 years old. And with Membou, another interesting factor with him is he's only 20 years old. I mean, when Olu came out, he was 21. I mean, you have a potential to have your 2 tackles. And again, it's a little bit scary being that young. But if you're looking down the runway and you're going, we have a 20-year-old right tackle and a 22-year-old left tackle, you're thinking to yourself, if you especially hit on Membou, I don't have to worry about the tackle position potentially for a whole decade. And that allows you to do so much in your front office. And I see your 49140. You watch the 40, but if anyone wants to go watch his 40, turn the volume up. It sounds like thunder is running at you. Like he's not just fast, he is loud when he runs.
That's a big man running, man. That's somebody I don't want running a 4.91 at me. That's for sure. If you think about it, man, on the offensive line, what are the most expensive positions? Left tackle, right tackle. I mean, generally, your tackles are the most expensive positions. So it makes sense to have guys on rookie deals. You know, if you're trying to build a team, it would make sense to want to have 2 tackles on rookie deals. Mm-hmm. It would also make sense to have a quarterback on a rookie deal too. But we'll get into something like that later. Maybe that'll be next year's talk. We'll see.
Here, go ahead, Daniel.
Go ahead.
No, well, you're hitting at something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's the topic of positional value. And I wanted to ask you guys, you know, we have a top 10 pick. Seems like we always do, but what exactly, because people throw that out there all the time. You can't take a tight end at 7. You can't. What does positional value mean to you? Mm-hmm. And what does it mean when it correlates to people saying, yeah, you can't take a tight end at 7th overall? I know our buddy 3 siblings, Jay, is big in that camp. You can't take a tight end at 7th overall. But yeah, what is positional value to you? Mm-hmm. And how does it correlate to this draft crop?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. And for me, I look at it through the 7 rounds, and it's kind of, okay, if we were to spread it out, what is more likely that I'm going to find a impact player at certain points in the draft? Wide receiver, we've seen, you can get great ones in round 1, but you can get Puka Nacua in rounds 5 and 6. Like, you can get great receiving talent all throughout the draft. The tight end position, I think, is a position where when you say you can't draft at 7 overall, to me, it's because you can find incredible value. I mean, look at the line. Sam Laporta was a 2nd-round pick. George Kittle was a 3rd-round pick. I mean, we see a lot of tight ends that go in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round become really great players. And we see certain tight ends like Kyle Pitts, who was drafted in the 1st round, maybe don't reach their full potential. And it's not all their fault, but you just look at it and it's easy to see. And that's why I went back to that tweet when I mentioned the playoff teams and where they drafted the right tackle. They invest in the offensive line early in the draft because it's important. Now, sometimes you can find a tackle, maybe develop him. Sometimes you get lucky with the Trey Smith, who's a great guard for the Chiefs, who they drafted in round 6. But to me, it really comes down to where can I potentially find a good player? Like quarterbacks, for example. You can find Tom Brady in the 6th round, but most likely you're going to find the quarterback in round 1 or 2. It's very rare you see the 3rd, 4th, 5th round quarterback. Maybe they have great success in the NFL, but they're not a Super Bowl contending or a top 10 quarterback in the league. With the offensive tackle, it's rare to see someone that's drafted in the 3rd or 4th round become a 10-year starter or a guy that can play at a Pro Bowl level. It's just very rare. Meanwhile, you can see great defensive players, pass rushers, defensive tackles, linebackers on day 3 all the time. Now, part is the offensive talent, I think, comes to the forefront, pushes great defensive players into day 3. But for me, that's how I view it is, okay, where can I get potential talent? And when I look at the tight end position, I look at it this way. I say, look, I can get a great tight end at pick 7 with Tyler Warren, and I get that. I could also get a really good tight end in round 2. I get a potential starter in round 3. I could get a really good competing for the number 1 role in round 4. Maybe a really good developmental player. Well, yeah, maybe he's not my number 1 tight end this year, but in 2 years, maybe he's going to be my number 1 tight end. You don't just have to draft someone that early. And I think running back's a great example. I think Ashton Genty's going to get drafted in the 1st round, but that's why teams draft running backs rounds 2 through 7. They don't want to spend the money on a position that the value keeps going down. And for the tight ends, like I just look like Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, Gunnar Helm, Terrence Ferguson, who ironically enough, the Jets were in Oregon looking at. I mean, he's someone that I could see them looking at I think the 73rd pick's going to be a little early, but maybe the 4th round could be a potential landing spot. There's a lot of really good, talented, and deep players in this draft. And I think a great GM has to understand what the strengths of the drafts are. What positions have the most depth? Because if you reach for that position early, you don't want to find yourself in a situation in round 3 or 4 where it's like, okay, I took a tight end. There's still a lot of decent tight end prospects, but okay, all the tackles I wanted are gone. All the quarterbacks in my interest are gone.
Supply and demand, then, is what you're
Correct.
telling me. Okay, fair. Daniel, what do you think?
I think that when you have a draft that's like this one, like I don't consider this draft a very top heavy draft. I think like Nolan is trying to get the point across. Like there's definitely some talent, at least in the mid rounds, if nothing else.
Right.
When you have a draft that's not a very top heavy draft, and there's only maybe a couple blue chippers in the draft, maybe 3, whatever. Then you have to kind of like the whole positional value thing. That gets skewed a little bit when you have a draft like this. If you have a normal draft where there might be 6 or 7 blue chippers, then it's like, oh, okay. Then you start thinking positional value, you start thinking BPA more than anything. I will say, and I harp on this point a lot, offensive line is one of the positions in the first round of the draft that has the highest hit rate. Highest hit rate. So if you're trying to get the right guy and you're trying to hit and you want to solidify your offensive line, it makes sense to go tackle, you know? Mm-hmm. And then when you factor in everything else, like Nolan was talking about, how we're deep at tight end in the mid to late rounds and stuff like that, and you look at the strengths of the draft, you look at the draft as a whole, then it does make sense. But if the Jets are blown away by Tyler Warren, then take him. You know what I mean? Like if you view him as like a dude, then you take him. It's that simple. Same thing with Ted, Mason Graham, any of those guys. If they fall, if you really think that that's a guy, then you take him. But from us as fans, when we're looking at it and we're trying to make sense of it and what the best choice is to do, I mean, it really does seem like Membou would make a very solid addition. Like it really feels like that's like the safe pick almost, if anything. If he's there, actually, we don't even know if he's going to be there because I'm seeing that the Pats visiting with him, right? And
you know what?
They're heavy on him. So it's possible with all this rising that he's done, maybe he'll rise up too far for us. But speaking of rising, I'm rambling here a little bit, but one thing I do like, I like players that rise late, because to me, if you rise late, you're a hard worker, because that means that you busted your ass to get prepped for the combine. You busted your ass to get prepped and busted your ass in the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl, whichever you're in, more than likely the Senior Bowl. You prepared. You put the work in, and that's something I want to see out of my players, and I think that's something that Aaron Glenn wants to see out of his players. He wants to see those lunch pail dudes that pack it up, they get ready, they go to work, they put the work in, and they step outside of the job site, look at the construction done, and they're like, I did that. Well, that's the type of guys he wants. So those late risers, those are those type of guys. Those are the guys that are still putting the work in. They're not afraid to put the work in. They're not just like, oh, I built my name up in college, that's good enough, they'll draft me high. No, the guys that keep working, those are the type of guys I like. So, and I think that's the type of guys that Aaron likes. So I do like the late risers. Either of you guys want to comment on that?
Yeah, I would, just because I did pitch the question. I do have a graphic I want to show you guys that pertains to positional value. But Murph, that's a really interesting point about you actually liking guys that rise late. And I get why. You made your point very convincing, because they're rising because of their off season. Anybody can work hard during the season, but working hard in the off season, not everybody does. And that's a good point. This is what I wanted to bring to everyone's attention this would be the salary of the guy that we take 7th overall. And the point I guess I'm trying to make is that, like I said, I've seen people very adamant that you cannot take a tight end 7th overall. And I get why. I mean, first overall pick gets 40 million guaranteed. It's insane. 7th overall, they get 28 million. This would be their salary years 1, 2, 3, and 4. For a tight end, 9 million in year 4. That's a pretty good salary. I mean, that's more than Hunter Henry makes, for example. That would be a top 10 tight end. Let's put it that way. However, imagine if this is a DT. Imagine if this is a right tackle. This is where positional value really kicks in. Imagine if this is a quarterback. 28 million in the tight end market. While this, I mean, if you average this, it's what, 7 million a year, 7 million a year. That would be the 20th ranked tight end. Well, I think Tyler Warren would be in the top 20 when you're talking about an overall tight end, not just catching passes in fantasy football, but an overall tight end. I think he could eclipse top 20 status. However, your return of investment, I mean, how further is he going to get than top 20? Is he going to be top 5? Because he might need to be, because 7 million a year for a right tackle, that's probably like what, 40th, and that's where if Membou comes in and he's a 20th tackle, he'd be making twice this. And
Right.
that's really where I can see where Jay, 3 siblings, is like, you can't take a tight end at 7. You can, and you could still get your value out of him. But if you could take a right tackle or a defensive tackle or a wide receiver and get him locked into this money, it's a lot easier for them to really give you the bang for the buck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Although I will say, in terms of value, if you were to ask me, and I know I'm going to piss off a lot of Jet fans because they think I'm anti-tight end, but I'm almost of the opinion, and I've said this a couple times, I would almost rather trade back at 7 than take Tyler Warren at 7 and get more assets, especially if I can get assets in next year's draft. I think next year's draft, not only for the quarterbacks, but overall, is a much more deeper and talented class. So if I can get even a 2nd round pick in next year's draft and propel back a couple spots, and who knows, there's a world I could see where if you trade back, I think Membou's out. I think he's going to get picked in the top 10. I can see a scenario where Tyler Warren is sitting there in the teens. So there could be a world where I would rather, if I'm going to draft Tyler Warren, to be honest, I'd rather trade back, get more draft capital. And again, you can never predict the draft. This is just a dream scenario, but that to me would be more ideal than trying to just pick him straight up at 7. Now, again, we'll have to see how the board falls. The quarterbacks are vastly going to dictate this, how early Shadur and Cam Ward go, where Abdul Carter goes. I mean, again, if Membou goes at 4, which you brought up, Murph, which is a great point, imagine the slide that's going to be. Like, if Travis Hunter's there at 5 somehow, like, that could create a lot of great drama or tension. And who knows, what if a team's just so desperate for Mason Graham or Tyler Warren or Ted McMillan that they offer the Jets a good package? Oh, geez, you guys are making me feel out of place. Like I'm the only one without an animal, basically. I didn't get the bring your pet to work day memo, but I can just pretend to stroke an invisible cat. Anyways, but
no stroking it on camera, dude. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, you are in the danger
This is
zone.
a family-friendly show. So, and this is the thing. Like when people hear me say I don't want Tyler Warren, they're like, "Oh, you hate him. You think he's a terrible prospect." No, I think he's a good prospect. I think he's one of the top 10 on this draft, but I also don't think this is a really great draft. Like if I'm honest, like even blue chips maybe 5 really blue chip prospects in this entire draft. I think there's a lot of really good players, but this reminds me of the 2023 draft, where after pick 12, especially when Broderick Jones was off the board, again, at the time we thought was something, but history will tell us something else. I mean, you look at the Jets are a perfect example. They drafted Will McDonald at 15. Everyone and their mother's like, why are the Jets drafting him here? He's a second-round player. But there really wasn't that much of a difference between Will McDonald and any other prospect on the board for the next 25, 30 picks. Like, I feel like that's going to be this draft. And if the Jets don't feel that Tyler Warren, here's my thing. If you're going to take a playmaker, especially in the top 10, if you don't think they're going to be a Pro Bowl player, they're not worth taking. If you feel Ted McMillan's a Pro Bowl player, you take him. If you don't think he's a Pro Bowl player, you don't take it. If you think Tyler Warren's going to be a Pro Bowl tight end, fine, take him. But if you think he's just going to be a good tight end, I just think it's a stretch because, again, there's so many good tight ends in this draft. There's different flavors of tight ends. There's better pass catchers. There's better blockers. Like, I also wouldn't be upset. Maybe the Jets wait until day 3, but they draft 2 tight ends on day 3 because they apparently like Stone and Jeremy Ruckert. Again, I know he's a name that Jet fans are rolling their eyes when I mention it, but you now got his former college quarterback back. You got him in there. He had chemistry with Justin Fields. Maybe this is, I'm not saying Jeremy Ruckert is going to all of a sudden be a Pro Bowl tight end, but maybe he starts showing the potential we're dreaming of when the Jets first drafted him. So, I mean, that could be a possibility as well. I mean, I'm also curious to see this team maybe addresses tight end in a trade, maybe a veteran's cut. They're able to add another veteran to this room. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. I would make the case receiver's a bigger need right now than tight end because it's Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard, who I again, Dane, you've listened to my show. I have a conspiracy theory that they're just holding Alan Lazard hostage to basically use him as a trade chip for whatever team Aaron Rodgers ends up with. But that's just a little theory of mine.
I don't even think he's worth it. Not an Alan Lazard guy, just in case you didn't know.
Well, when a receiver plays with a soccer ball more than a football, you have questions.
And he congratulates defenders that get pick sixes, too, on the opposite side. That's great. So I do want to say, like, hey, Dane has been an advocate since, like, day one about trading back. In the right scenarios, I'm all about trading back, too. I think that this team needs more picks. We need more picks to add more talent to the team. Especially, I've been preaching for a few weeks. Like, I do like Tyler Warren. Mm-hmm. I don't love Tyler Warren at 7. I think, when you factor in the things like the value of the position, how much you're paying, all those things that we've talked about now, and then just the player itself too, it's not really worth going at 7 at this point. You just trade back, and if he drops to 12, then I feel a lot better about it because we got a second round out of it or something. So. Yeah, I think that if it's like a Tyler Warren, if that's who they're looking at, then trade back and hope he drops. If not, just go BPA, man, because there's a lot of other guys that are pretty talented, like defensive players. We won't talk a lot of defense that high in the draft. People bring up Mason Graham, and that's it. Well, there's a lot of good defensive, like there's edges and stuff that are pretty talented. You drop back to 12. And
Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'll go that high for him. I do like Shamar Stewart. I just don't know about that high. But yeah, there's a lot of guys. I mean, hell, even if you end up if you drop back to 14 and you take the safety, what's his name, Malachi Starks or something like that, I'm not that upset about it because you got extra draft capital when you did it and you filled a hole. Because right now we have a lot of holes to fill, so it kind of helps to have the extra capital and you filled a hole with a guy that could be a stud. I don't know. So to me, that's my guy. Chaos is on it, Mike Green. That to me is the best route. If you can find a partner that'll give you adequate compensation, trade back. unless a blue chipper falls to you. Like if Abdul Carter falls to 7, you're taking them. Like that's that simple.
Oh
But
yeah,
I'm just saying, like
if Abdul Carter's there at 7, if Aaron Glenn isn't personally
Yeah.
running to Lambeau to make that pick, I don't know what's going on. But it is fascinating when you talk about trading back. I always say trading back matters. What matters is your dance partners. And right now you got to look at the Carolina Panthers are 8 and New Orleans is at 9. And it's funny because like I've tried looking into it. I'm not really sure what their biggest needs are at this point. But one fascinating scenario I could see, and I don't think the Jets would get as much for it, is the Saints at 9. Maybe it's an extra pick in this draft. Personally, again, I try to get a pick for next year's draft. Maybe they could get a 3rd rounder to replace the one Hassan Reddick, but we won't go down that road. If there's a player that both Carolina and New Orleans truly love, and I'm sorry if I'm spotty, I guess the Wi-Fi is not working, but can you just tell me, Dana, where I cut out a little bit just so I can make sure
You're fine. It's just you're fine. Your lips were not at all in sync. I didn't know if you had any extra tabs open or anything, but we caught it all though.
So it was like the Godzilla movies. Like my mouth would stop moving and the words would still be coming out. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So showing that I'm a movie nerd. But anyways, I think the big thing you also hope for too is New Orleans. If you want to hope that Carolina and New Orleans, like Mason Graham's a great example. I think he could be a player both of them really like. And again, if the Jets love him and they think he's the best player at the position at the time, and they think he's going to be a huge impact on the defense, then go get him. But if the Saints say, look, we really love him, we really want to jump the Panthers to make sure the Panthers don't get him, I could see that being a spot at 9 because I don't really see Carolina interested in a tight end potentially. So then you move to 9, you could still get Tyler Warren, but get some assets back. So that's one of the interesting trade scenarios where you usually want to be in front of a team that needs a quarterback. But another good scenario is you love it when you have 2 division rivals back to back because you can kind of put the team behind them against each other. It's like, well, we kind of saw it. It's not the perfect example, but we kind of saw the Patriots do that to the Jets a couple of years ago with Broderick Jones. Like we all knew the Jets wanted Jones, but then the Patriots at 14 were like, well, we could help the Jets, but Bill just wanted to get, a little twist the knife just a little bit in there. So, but I think that could be a potential trade scenario there is trading back to 9, getting an asset and being still able to get Tyler Warren. I mean, I could see, I don't think Tyler Warren potentially, if the Jets don't take him at 7, here's a great question for the chat and for everyone. Do you really see him going in the top 10? Like, unless the team trades up, like I don't see the Panthers at 8. I don't see the Saints at 9. And I'm trying to remember. I know San Francisco's 11, Cowboys are 12. I'm trying to remember who's the 10th pick right now.
Chicago.
That's Chicago. Chicago maybe because they've already bought their whole offensive line this offseason. So they might be in play for him at 10. So moving to 9 would help.
So let me ask you this, okay? Obviously, I think everybody on this panel, if we could slide and still get Warren, we would. Maybe we slide and one of these guys we're all wanting at 7 falls to us. That like if you slide to 11 and you get a top 7 guy to fall, like that's key. But like, okay, if they don't fall to you, you take Warren. That's awesome. I think the key is staying ahead of Indy. Because Indy is regretting the whole Bowers thing from last year too, and I see them mocked with Warren quite a bit at 15. But let me ask you this, okay? You don't slide, like you got to stick and pick. Name some players that you think that would not like. Name some players that would be good additions for this team. Maybe name 1 or 2 that you think would be bad.
Okay, at pick number 7. So going through all the different scenarios, one player I don't think we can completely rule out is Ashton Genty. And again, it all comes down to how this front office views it. And I know we talk about value picks, and I don't love picking a running back number 1 in the first round. But you look at Detroit, I mean, they traded up for Jahmyr Gibbs. They took him 12th overall, and they have a great two-headed rushing attack. So that might be a scenario where, especially if they're going to run the football like it seems like they're going to, that could be a potential dark horse. I don't see it, but again, it's a dark horse. Jalen Walker, I think, is a very intriguing player because he's an off-ball linebacker. He can get to the quarterback. I think a lot of it's going to come down to where the Jets are going to use him and how they view the edge positions, because we've heard that they're going to be this hybrid 4-3, 3-4 defense. Maybe they think Walker can play multiple roles from the Georgia defense. He can line up on the outside, can line up on the inside, can play with his hand in the dirt. He could be someone there as well that could potentially be a dark horse. Personally, if it's not Membou, I really like Tet McMillan. I just think he's such a good compliment, highly productive, great above the rim for Garrett Wilson, gives you that big body on the outside. Shamar Stewart is someone that worries me because he reminds me a lot of these players we see every single year. And I always tell people, look at the production versus the skill set. I mean, versus the combine. Because with Stewart, you're seeing off the charts measurables. You're seeing these great times. You're seeing all these great physical scores. But I think in college, what was he? He had 4.5 sacks over his full college career. It was, and a lot of it's like, well, and you watch the tape, you're like, well, he's close. He's close. Well, part about being a great sacker is finishing. You have to know how to finish. And it concerns me if you can't finish at the college level. And I get it. They don't make humans that are 6'5", 280 and run like him. I get all that. But I feel like with him, if he's really that dynamic and that dominant of a player and that physically gifted, you almost feel like he would fall into sacks or just getting off the ball or the pursuit. Like he would just get a sack almost by accident. He's someone that I've seen get really pushed up boards lately. I think it's a little bit of a risk there for the Jets. Again, I at this point, we've seen them bank on measurables like Mekhi Becton, and it hasn't worked out. I love the Mike Green connection. I think he would be a tremendous player. Again, I know a lot of people don't like the small school tag, but I think he's a great player. I am a little bit curious, though, where Will Campbell's a fascinating player. I wouldn't go after Campbell because he's a left tackle. And I don't think he's going to want to move to the right side. It's just changing your footwork is such a big deal. I get the idea of getting one of the top tackle candidates. Membou plays right tackle. He's been a right tackle. You don't have to move it. You can plug and play him. Where with Campbell, it's going to be a transition. And the thing with him is I do think Campbell's a lot better pass blocker than a run blocker. He's a guy he reminds me a lot of Olu. He's more of a seal guy. He's not going to beat you with his power. He's not going to bowl you over. And the Jets already have that kind of finesse left tackle. I don't know how it would work with having a right tackle that's a little bit more finesse, where I think Membou is a little bit more raw. And again, 332 can get downhill a little bit more. So those are a couple of the prospects that I really like at that position, and guys who I think might be a little bit of a stretch. And look, I think Campbell, I hope he goes to New England so it eliminates that debate, Dane. But the reason I like Tet also in the first round is there's some depth of the wide receiver position, but I'll tell you, this is not like a wide receiver class where last year's class we talked about, the 2020, the Sauce draft. That one had a great receiving group. This one, again, like every year you have talented receivers, you have different flavors, but I think it's a thin receiver class, especially day 2, day 3. So if you want to get Tet, if you want playmakers in this draft, I'd say go Tet first round, tight end second round, and then you go from there and fill out the rest of the roster.
Awesome. Hell yeah. And I'm not far off, to be honest. Maybe it deviates just a hair, but like I don't want Shador And honestly, the way things are going, I could see him tumbling. Man.
Right.
I really could.
I feel bad for Shador personally because I think the thing that hurts him is his dad. And not to say that I just feel like people don't want to deal with, or they're afraid of what could be with Dion. Because I've mentioned on my show, like, part of me selfishly wants him to go to the Giants because I know that would be great drama. Because here's the thing with Shador. Let's say you're a coach that isn't a first-year coach and you draft Shador, and Shador struggles. Dion, who's been Shador's coach his entire life, let's remind ourselves, you don't think Dion could go to that owner and start maybe whispering in his ear saying, hey, I know my son better than anyone else. You need to make him work. I know what will make him successful in this league. Yeah, I might not be the best head coaching candidate, but I'm going to get the most out of him as a quarterback. So I just could see that threat of Dion on the horizon, like, especially if you're a coach that you're not sure about Shador, or you're not sure about your job status. Like, couldn't you just see the Giants draft him at 3? They struggle early in the season. Couldn't you see Dion going on ESPN or one of these podcasts every week or two and talking about, well, the coaches don't get my son. The coaches don't know how to game plan. They're not putting him in the place to win. And you don't think he's whispering to John Maher, hey, man, you're not happy? I can get the most out of my son. And couldn't you I just would love to see this. Could you imagine if Dion becomes the head coach of the New York Giants?
Oh, boy.
With his son to play the Dallas Cowboys twice a year. Like, NFL script writers, you can send me the check.
That's a hot take.
Send me the check.
I like that.
You want to talk about drama?
That's the first I've heard that too. That's a good take, Nolan. Trademark that for sure. Nolan, where can we find you, man? This is all, dude. It always feels like 10 minutes and it's an hour. Where can we find you?
Of course, guys, you can find me wherever podcasts are streaming. My handle is at Rich Sports Talk, at the Rich Sports Talk on Twitter, and of course on YouTube. The link is below in Rich Sports Talk. And guys, just gonna tease you, the first 7-round mock draft is dropping 2:00 on Monday. Now, again, I've done the 3-rounders, but with free agency pretty much now settled, I have my 7-round mock drafts. Will there be trades? Will the Jets draft a quarterback? Will it be Membou or Tyler Warren? I guess probably a lot of you are guessing it probably won't be Tyler Warren with the first pick, with how I've been talking about him tonight. But how will the Jets fill out their roster? Again, we'll have mock draft Mondays all the time, but it's our first of many 7-round mock drafts for the Jets. Will be dropping 2:00 on Monday on the Rich Sports Talk channel. Again, guys, you're not going to want to miss that because I know how much you guys love the draft. I mean, basically the draft's our Super Bowl for Jets fans, which is unfortunately sad but true.
Facts. Hey, man, like I said, love following you on Twitter as well as YouTube. If you guys need some content right after our games end too, you'll see him there along with all summer long. Nolan, appreciate you entering the danger zone, brother.
All right, I'll see you guys next time.
Later.
Okay, man.
Daniel Murphy, another guest in the books, man. And guess what, man? I got another one in the green room. I know you sometimes have to step away. Is now your time to step away, or you want to wait a few?
Yeah, here in about a minute, I will have to. Yeah.
Okay, just go whenever you need to go. Feel free. In the meantime, guys, get ready for this next guest because I haven't seen him here in good 2 months, I think, man. But he's no stranger to the danger zone. No stranger to the danger. The one and only Charles Gorman.
Hey guys, how are you?
What's up,
Charles?
dude?
You, buddy?
Good, man. Look, I think I've heard of Rich Talk Sports before. I mean, not the channel. I think I remember. Wasn't he on there in 2012? I'm not entirely sure, but his voice sounded very familiar to me, and I did like a lot of his takes that I've heard. To be honest with you, I think it would be, excuse my language, fucking hilarious if he became the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. just to stick it to Jerry Jones, man.
Of the Dallas Cowboys or the Giants?
I mean the Giants. I'm sorry. If he would become the head coach of the Giants, just to stick it to Jerry Jones' stupid ass, that would be hilarious. Anyway, here's the thing. I do a terrible job in watching college football. That's how great I am at watching college sports. Okay. But I did see the highlights of Membou. He looks like a stud to me. He looks like a guy that can really, really kick ass in the NFL. I did watch one guy. He said he needs to polish this in some areas, which is fine. As you said, Daniel Murphy, no one's perfect coming out of college. No one ever truly is. But I do think with the proper coaching, hopefully, fingers crossed, we have that, because this coaching staff has yet to do anything.
Facts.
But we'll see what the hell happens. I do believe in Aaron Glenn, but we'll see what the hell happens. But with that being said, I would love for the Jets to take either Membou or. Now, I understand why some people would believe not taking a tight end at the top 10 is not a good thing because look what happened with Kyle Pitts, a guy that was compared to, let's say, Darren Waller, a guy who was a very good tight end for a lot of years with the Raiders. And he hasn't reached up to his full potential. But that's not all on his fault. That's mostly due to the coaching, in my opinion. But still, he has yet to reach his potential, to achieve his potential in the National Football League. But with that being said, I did a mock draft on one of the websites, and they had Tyler Warren falling to number 36 to the Jaguars, I think.
Wow.
Ooh-wee.
That would be crazy.
I'm not joking. I'm like, wow, Tyler Warren hasn't been picked yet till this early in the second round. Holy crap. Like, that's a mind-blowing for me. And I traded, I know you talked about this on your channel, so please don't kill me, but I traded a couple of fourth-round picks for Dallas Goedert, who I think is a good player.
Hey, he is.
The Dane thing. I'm okay with bringing Goddard in
and let me may I state let me just put it this way. I don't hate the trade. I hate not being in the room while Muji's. Yeah, I don't trust that Roseman won't be shiesty, especially since Goddard has so much dead money. But no, if we could just give a fourth and there's no dead money, I'm doing it today.
Yeah. Plus, someone asked me if Jedrick Wills is a free agent. Yeah, he still is a free agent, and he's only 25 years old. And he's a pretty solid player, too. When he's healthy on the field, he's a solid player. Look, I know we signed Okorafor, I hope I said his name correctly, even though I don't think he's that good of a player. But we did sign him. I did like the Josh Myers signing. He is a solid center. I did like the Andre Cisco signing. I'm not crazy about the Brandon Stevens signing, but I don't hate it. I know we got a punter from Arizona. I know we re-signed Jamie Sherwood. That was a tremendous free agent signing. Matthew Smith, I don't hate the trade. I hate the Eagles. I don't hate the Eagles. I know what's funny. Like, why don't you hate the Eagles? They're Philly. Screw Philly. I actually been to Philly a couple of times. It's not a bad city, in my opinion. It's just the fans are fucking nuts.
You know what I don't hate? I don't hate your football takes, Charles.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I thank you. But I'm trying to think. Shit. Oh yeah. I watched his highlights too. Arroyo from Miami, he's very good. I did watch Restrepo, even though he is a tight end, and I'm a wide receiver. I think he's solid, and I do like the tight end from Michigan, even though Michigan was primarily, especially under Jim Harbaugh, they were a run-heavy offense. I think he's a solid receiving, but the question is he a good blocker? Because to me, I like my tight end as good. Like, here's the thing. Do I dislike Travis Kelce? No, I don't. But the thing is, if you were to ask me who was a better tight end, all-around tight end, I'm taking Gronk because he could block. The son of a bitch could block. He was probably the best blocking tight end I've ever seen in my damn life. And I can say that, Jet fans, because we played against that son bitch twice a fucking year.
What do you think of this guy here, Charles?
Tyler Warren,
Nope.
Clancy.
You see my finger?
Oh, Conklin.
Yeah.
I thought he was a good player. He just wasn't utilized properly. I'm glad he's going to the Chargers. I mean, I'd rather see him go to the Chargers than the fucking Patriots.
That's
But
exactly where I am.
I know you're not a big fan of Jim Harbaugh as a person, but he is a great coach. I mean, he was a
He
tremendous
is.
coach. He was a tremendous coach for Michigan. He was a tremendous coach at Stanford. And he was people forgot, not saying you, but a lot of people seem to forget that he coached the 49ers for 4 years, and he did a hell of a job turning that franchise around.
He succeeded everywhere he's gone.
And he wasn't that bad of a quarterback, if my memory serves me correct. I know he played quarterback in the NFL, and he was a decent player. But hey, some players are better off as coaches. You know, Sean Payton wasn't a good player. Look how good he is as a coach. But
That's a good point.
Now someone asked me about Philly cheesesteaks. I love cheesesteaks. I know Judge Chaos said that they don't get knishes, special potato knishes in California, but he makes them. God bless you, Judge Chaos. God bless you, Jeremy. Seems like you're a good cook.
I've never even seen a knish in my life.
You're serious, right?
Yeah, I'm serious.
I've had knishes, and they are very delicious and scrumptious.
What are they?
It all depends on how you make them, too. I've been a fan of knishes since I was a kid. My mother, even though she never made them, she's bought them.
What do you make of the idea that cheese ruins steak?
Cheese ruins steak?
Yeah.
I call bullshit on that, but that's just me.
I love that.
I love cheese. I love cheese with chicken. I love cheese with turkey.
Yeah. Hey, man, I've lived in Ohio and PA for 35 of my 36 years and never came face to face with a knish.
Well, where do you live right now, Dano? In Pennsylvania?
So I moved clear cross country, brother. I am out on the edge. I'm in Oregon.
Oh, good for you, man. I've never been to Oregon. I heard it's a pretty decent state, though.
Dude, I had a bald eagle land in my yard today.
Oh, that's fucking dope.
It is.
Don't be oh god, what's that idiot from Super Troopers?
Oh, that's a great movie.
I know. Farva going down, Baldy shoots the bald eagle.
Yeah, no, I would never, man. That was like the coolest sight. I was like, wow. And then this may be trivial to some people in the chat, but like I've never seen a snail in a shell before. But because like in PA and Ohio, all we had were like slugs. They never like actually had shells. But like now when it rains, there's all these fucking snails walking around with the damn giant ass shell. And like I've seen them on cartoons and shit, but here they're all over the place.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
now I understand, I know we're not thinking about drafting Shedeur Sanders, and I don't want, not that I'm against the guy, but we don't need enough drama. We're tired of that bullshit. But I do feel bad for Shedeur too, because his dad, this is Deion Sanders, prime time. One of the greatest divas of all time, one of the greatest football players of all time. And he was, in my opinion, a pretty damn good analyst on NFL Network for quite some time as well. So he's very intelligent, even though he can be a bit, I'm being nice about it, cocky,
Yes,
arrogant. But I also like the fact that he keeps it real too. I like the fact that he's not soft on his players. But at the same time, because of his father's ego and his diva persona, it kind of puts Shedeur in a bad position. And I do feel bad for the young fella.
I think he's better served being drafted in the third round. Like, no pressure.
But
What do you make of the idea that some would say that Deion Sanders' greatest achievement of all time is if he gets his son drafted in the top 5?
His greatest achievement? I think his greatest achievement should be turning the lives of young men around. Not just, oh, I got my son and then I got my son into the NFL. I think
Well,
his greatest accomplishment should be turning the lives of young men, especially,
facts.
excuse me for getting a little political and racial here, black men, turning the lives of young men into good people, into productive members of society. Because football, you learn a lot about life when you play a game of football, if my memory serves me correctly. So you learn a lot. You learn a lot of shit. Like, I know he wasn't a great coach, but Mike Singletary, his post game rant turned Vernon Davis's life around. I know he wasn't a great head coach, but that rant kind of woke Vernon Davis the fuck up, and he's like, you know what? I gotta grow the fuck up and grow a pair of balls and move on with my life. I can't be me. I can't be worried about me, and I can't, be about me. I gotta be more about the team. Now, Vernon Davis was a good football player. Just that early on in his career, he was very immature.
Yes.
Bill Parcells, if he was coaching today, I know he's in his close to his 90s, but if he was in his younger days, if he was coaching today's NFL, he wouldn't tolerate this shit. He would turn around the lives of young men. But anyway, I think Deion Sanders' greatest achievement shouldn't just be, oh, I got my sons into the NFL. I think it shouldn't be about turning around college football program. Like the Colorado football program sucked for a long time, and he turned them around. He turned around Jackson State into a really successful program.
I'm with you. Actually, Colorado is the second team I've watched the most in college next to Oregon this past year, and they were exciting as hell to watch. Let me ask you this. What do you think of them hiring Byron Leftwich as their OC?
The former NFL quarterback? Colorado?
Yep.
That's interesting. I know they got Warren Sapp on the coaching staff. I know they got Byron Leftwich. That's interesting. Hey, wish the guy the best of luck,
I'm going to tune in this next year. That's one thing about Deion, man. Like him or hate him, he is must watch TV.
Exactly. Kind of like John Cena. He's must see TV. Love him or hate him.
Yep.
Anyways, I would like the Jets to try to get. I know he could be more so a 3rd or 4th round pick, but Restrepo's nice too.
What do you think of the Loveland guy?
That's what I was talking about before. He's good, but the question is, can he block? And that's what I'm saying. I want tight ends who can not only catch the damn football, which would be great, but I want tight ends to block as well. Like, obviously, a wide receiver. While I love me some Hines Ward, I'm still pissed that he's not in the Hall of Fame. But he was a tremendous blocker too. Some people regard as great as he was a receiver, he's the best blocking wide receiver of all time. You can argue that.
Him and Steve Smith. Him and Steve Smith were both amazing for their size.
No, Steve Smith. I wasn't big on explode. I wasn't crazy about receivers with explosive personalities, but there was one receiver that has earned my respect in that regard. It was Steve Smith Sr. He didn't take shit from nobody. He was a short guy, had a great pair of hands, ran great routes, had very good speed, and he was a dog, man. He was a competitor.
Agreed. He's gotten into some difficulties of late off the field, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I heard he cheated on his wife, which I think is idiotic, but hey, it is what it is. But he was a great football player, and I don't think that should dissuade the voters from saying, hey, put him in the Hall of Fame.
But a lot of people say, hey, you can get 2 tight ends this draft, one of them to catch and one of them to block. You're against that. You want 2 well-rounded guys or just 1 well-rounded guy?
Well, I understand a lot of GIF fans. Some GIF fans don't like Jeremy Ruckert, and I can understand it. But at the same time, the coaching staff did him no favors either. So I can understand that. But the thing is, the last talented tight end we drafted that had a promising rookie year, but then went to shit was Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon had a solid rookie year. He made some Odell Beckham Jr.-like catches his rookie season, especially that one game against the Packers. Then after that, he gets in trouble for juicing up a little bit. Then he doesn't produce. So we tried with Ryan Griffin. He was meh at best. We tried with Tyler Kroft. He was meh at best. I know Matthew Smith isn't like the others, but the last time we had a solid, not a great tight end, a solid tight end was Dustin Keller.
Boilermaker. Keller, dude, I remember the very first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Dustin Keller, I think of how he won the competition in the locker room for the strongest man on the team in the weight room. And I just thought to myself, man, you're stronger than everybody? That's insane.
Matthew Smith keeps saying Dustin Keller was awful, yet he said he was a bad teammate.
I think Matthew's just trying to rile you up, brother.
I don't know. It is what it is.
Hey, dude, love talking to you. I got Nick T on the line. Do you want me to bring him out with you?
Mike T? Oh, sure. Why not?
Nick T.
Oh, sure. Nick T, go ahead.
All right, let's do it. Because I got to pee anyway. We got Murph back. Give me a minute, gents. But feel free to chop it up.
Charles?
What's up, Nick?
What's up, Murph?
Hey, Nick T, how are you, buddy?
Nick,
Good. How are you guys doing?
doing well.
Good.
Dude, good
man.
stuff, dude. Chris Herndon, Jet legend.
Yeah,
Shit,
Jet
oh,
legend for like a fucking year, then he disappointed afterwards.
You know what I remember most about Chris Herndon is that game against the Patriots when he so clearly got a fucking touchline and the damn refs overturned it. Oh
I was
my
there.
god! I don't know why
there
that's
for
the
that
mean that sticks the most to me. Oh,
Are you sure you're not thinking of Austin Severian Jenkins?
Oh yeah. No, that's that was Varian Jenkins was it.
That actually worked out for us for a year, and we let them go, and they did nothing for anybody else. So.
But see, Charles. So you were talking about Keller was one of our better tight ends. I agree, but like he reminded me a lot of like Dallas Clark, like that
Dallas Clark
similar vein of like.
Dallas Clark was good for the Patriots. Listen to me. He was good under Peyton Manning, and he was good for the Ravens too, and the Bucks.
Yeah, it's just like it reminded me, but like that tight end to me doesn't like it worked well for the year and a half, and it did, but like you need some in this weather, like we don't have a dome, so you need someone like who's like gonna do it all, and that's why I can't. I know everyone loves Tyler Warren. I can't get behind it at 7, maybe at like 15 or 20. I could be like, okay, Tyler Warren, but like I just can't get behind a tight end because I don't think a tight end top 10 is gonna pay off for this team. It's just not.
I understand that completely.
Hey, I mean, trading down is what makes more sense to me. Especially if you're going Tyler Warren. If you're going to tight end, I feel like you need to drop down a little bit, get a little more draft capital.
If you tell me that in some weird, I don't think this is going to happen, but like you trade down from 7 to like 15 to 20, get at least an extra 3, maybe a 1 next year, probably a 2 next year, and you're telling me that extra pick nets you a 3rd rounder that you can get a wide receiver 2. I'm not saying it's going to be Olave but someone's willing to give up. Then yeah, because then if you take a tight end, whether it's Warren or tackle late in 1st round, and then pair that together, that's a good grouping for Fields to go with.
Johnny Boy says I love the Patriots because I mentioned Rob Gronkowski for some stupid freaking reason.
What were you trying to give up, Nick? Or are you talking about potentially giving up like a 3rd round?
Yeah, I don't know what they want for Olave, but like from what I gather, it seems like it's going to be.
I'm gonna get going, guys. Okay, peace out.
Charles.
All right, Charles.
Later,
Take it
Charles.
easy, buddy. Have a good night.
You too.
Like so Metcalf just went for a 2, right? And I think Metcalf, at the very least, would be viewed as someone who's a higher ranked wide receiver than Olave. So at the very least,
a two, but you also have to factor in that they had to pay him at the same time.
That does affect trade value.
But Olave's on a very similar deal. Wasn't he drafted the same year as Garrett Wilson?
Same year.
Yeah, so they're both on the same deal. So they're not going to get, like, Garrett's getting the contract, let's be honest, right? Like, so in that case, like, you're just banking on at least probably a 1-year deal, more than likely 1.5 year deal. So, like, I'm just saying the value, not that, because everything in the NFL is year to year. But if that's the value of DK Metcalf, who's probably viewed as, at least on everyone's chart, probably a top 15, maybe top 20 wide receiver, is worth a 2. And Olave, I think, is at best an equivalent. Then probably a late 2, probably a 3 is fair. So if you're trading down and you have 2 3s, you have 73, right? And whoever's trading up to 7 to get, then now you have a disposable 3rd round pick that you can use towards a wide receiver too.
So you're suggesting slide down, get a 3rd, send a 3rd to New Orleans for Olave. I don't hate the idea. Do the concussions worry you?
I mean, not as much as everyone else's would, right? Like, yeah, he's injury prone, but at this point in free agency or the draft, you're not going to get a top tier wide receiver. You're going to have to gamble on some upside. And to me, a guy who's going into his 4th year, just like Garrett Wilson, and it's weird. Like, you hate to. It's a different sport, but like we've all seen it with the Knicks, like the Villanova, like the chemistry factor does have some value, and I legitimately believe that there is some value to bringing this whole Ohio State offense together, to like the skill positions at least, and maybe like there's that off-platform like component to the game that maybe that familiarity will work well for Justin Fields. And hey, what's the worst that happens? Like, give it a shot. The team's not going to the playoffs per se either way. Like, if you lose, you're not going to the playoffs, and at least you have a higher pick that you can rebuild it.
The only thing I got, as far as Olave, and him in particular, and I know that this wasn't directed specifically at him. I know that you said that, whatever other options as a wide receiver too you think you could trade for. Olave specifically, and it's not even the injuries that I'm worried about, is the fact that he's on the same timeline as Garrett, and paying 2 high-tier receivers, because I think Olave is a pretty talented receiver. I think he's a damn good wide receiver 2, maybe lower tier wide receiver 1 in the league. You can't pay both those guys at the same time,
right.
So if you're getting him, you're literally looking at like a 1-year rental, and you only do the whole 1-year rental thing if you think you're going to compete. And I personally don't think the Jets are competing this year.
So let's play devil's, as my wife likes to say, avocado. So you can also financially. So let's say you pay Garrett Wilson the $30 million. Let's just say he's getting $30 million per. You can franchise tag Olave for a 1-year deal, and in today's
like
NFL,
$20 million per year.
Yeah, but still, today's NFL, the best thing to do, to be honest, is to have financial flexibility. So, me personally, I don't want a team that's committed 4 or 5 years of worth of contracts down the road. I'd rather have a 2-year commitment and be able to rebuild. Same thing, like if Aaron Glenn. And I 100% believe in Aaron Glenn as the guy. Even if he doesn't work out, if you have all these contracts 2 to 3 years down the road, you can rebuild, and the new coach comes in and you got that deal. You got all that cap room. You can gut the team and build it in your image. So it gives whoever comes in the flexibility to do what they want to do. So that's how I think any team has to look at the NFL as a 2 to 3 year proposition of how you're going to rebuild things.
Well, when you look at contracts nowadays, and I know I've discussed this with Dane before. He's this way, not that way. You move me again. Um, when you look at contracts in the NFL, every time they announce a contract, if they say it's 4 years for 38 million, it's actually 3 years because the way they do these contracts nowadays, there's always
Guaranteed
outs
money.
1 year early, and the guaranteed money, and then the void years, things like that. So it's always like 1 year less than what they announce, at least.
That's what, and not to cut you off, but that's what the Fields contract. Like, everyone's upset about the Fields. Like, people are like, I argued with my buddy. He's a big Steelers fan. He's like, oh, you gave him too much money, whatever. 30 million, however you cut it, is standard for a starting quarterback pretty much nowadays. So I don't care however you slice it, that's what you're paying. The guaranteed money is what you're looking at. So you're either looking at a 1 year, 30 million contract to a guy who didn't pay off, or you're looking at a potential backup quarterback for the next 2 years. So it's not a bad contract financially in any way you look at it. Johnny Boy, what's up, man?
Every
Nick D.
deal I've seen Muji cut has been decent. Like even Brandon Stevens, people flipped out about. You can get out of that 3rd year, and the first 2 is like 2 for 24. Hey, we'll do it. But anyways, Johnny, yeah, what's up, brother?
Dano, Murph, Nick T. What's going on, guys?
Man.
What's up, brother?
Oh, just had to come in and show you guys some love, man. I see
What do
the Conklin hanging from the Raptors up there, man. R.I.P. baby. But
if I didn't like beer, I would pour one out, man.
I'll pour one in.
If I didn't want to spill it on my laptop, I'd pour one.
Did he sign somewhere today or no?
Chargers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
tight ends.
They're making some good moves out there, man. That offensive line.
Honestly, they're doing it in a model that I want us to like do, like trenches, smash mouth, run the ball, add your tight end. Like that's
if you
the
recall,
model.
they had the cap issue last year. That was the big situation. They had to get rid of, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. There's a few others that they were like, they got to get rid of all these. They were talking about trading Herbert because they had so much cap issue.
That's crazy. But they have good coaching. Can we even get to 3/4 of that?
Believe in Aaron Glenn, guys.
I think we are.
I believe in Aaron Glenn. I really do, dude. I think he's doing the right things.
I believe in Aaron Glenn. I just don't believe in Aaron Glenn this year. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't believe that the team is there. I think he's the type of coach that's going to have to take a second to build what he's trying to do. So Johnny, Nick was bringing out the scenario of trading back, gaining a third, sending that third to somebody for a wide receiver 2. Do you think that's worth it? Maybe bringing a wide receiver 2 in on like a 1-year deal, or
I've
this year.
That's where I've been on, like, this whole time. I'm on the whole trade back scenario part itself. I even was with the Afterburners and Armand. We were having a convo in regards to this, right? Of potentially going as far back as Pittsburgh, right? And potentially bringing in Darnell Washington, right? To go ahead and be that tight end that we would need and still be able to get possibly a first next year and still get a third from that. So
Johnny, where does Pittsburgh pick?
21, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you guys? So you kind of bring up the scenario of like trading back to Pittsburgh. I've seen a mock. Do you guys think Pittsburgh would trade up for Dart?
I mean,
they'll have to. I think that's about where Dart's going in the early 20s.
If Sanders is there, if the convo is being for real and they're talking about him going down and Sanders is there, I don't know, man. I keep spitballing a lot of this stuff because honestly, if I'm being real with you guys, I don't know where they're going, man. They've put themselves in I think so, that they've put themselves in such a good position that they could stay at 7 if they really wanted to, or they could go ahead and go back. And I think we would all be happy in regards to what they do. You know, I just don't. I would be pissed if they got Sanders. I say that much.
I
If
agree.
they go ahead and get like Sanders or Dart at 7, I probably be off of here for a while.
Well,
You
hold
know?
on, hold on.
Yeah.
I
What
get
if
the
what
feeling
if
it's
what if
just
Cam Ward falls to 7, Johnny?
I've said it the whole time. It's Cam Ward, and then it's everybody else, right?
he's not
QB
getting
Adam,
wise.
seven.
So
He can't get
Adam,
seven.
if I even today on the show, we talked about if Abdul Carter falls to that because of the whole injury stuff. I don't think it's gonna happen, but if that does happen, do we get him? Like, do you say I'm confident enough with this kid's talent that I think he would excel with the
That's
Jets?
But you guys got to consider the fact that like whether it's Shadir, Jackson Dart, like that's the idea is that like the bluff of taking a quarterback at 7 is what increases the value to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like a team trading up is going to give you that one if they think that's their quarterback. And like I hope Shadir is there at 7 and some team is dumb enough to like say, hey, I'll trade up because I see Tyrod 2.0. And I like Tyrod, but he's not worth a first round pick. He wasn't a first round pick. Like Shadir to me has no traits that make him an elite level quarterback. He's not explosive. Like it's weird that like some like people say this all the time. Like I don't know who said it. But like once again, I was like, if he didn't have the Sanders last name, would you even consider him in the first round? And I don't think you can. He is. There's nothing I saw about him. I was like, oh yeah, he's great. Like he's solid, but like he
he
doesn't
had a
like.
good year. He's got a resume, but I don't know that he really pops off the tape. Like he doesn't show like the physical traits that like a Cam Ward does. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I think that the name does help. I feel like he
Agreed.
maybe like a end of round 1 flyer type quarterback if not for that last name and for us it's just a weak quarterback class, so that's going to push it up there, man. I don't think Dart is like you put Dart in a different draft class, he's not talked about in round 1, man. I really don't think so. So it's just a lot of it's just this class.
Right, but that's part of the game of the draft though is taking advantage of that. Who falls to that point at 7? That maybe there's quarterback 2 or like I don't think so because historically, right, quarterbacks go top 5 anyway, whether it's viewed that way or not. But like if no quarterback is taken, if it's only one quarterback that's taken in the first 6 picks and it comes to the Jets, you have to trade that pick. Because if someone thinks that there's a franchise quarterback there, it's at least another first round pick you're getting from somebody to go up there. And that's enough. We just saw it with JD, like as good or bad a GM you think he is, he did build a pretty damn good team off of all those picks that he got from those trades. So trading back and getting an extra one in the next year, like I don't know. I really think that's probably the way, especially given the fact that we're one piece away from the offensive line being potentially beat.
What I will say about the whole Sanders thing and like Dart and all that, like I don't know Sanders' value. I don't. But if I'm Cleveland and I'm picking 3rd, rather than take Sanders, I would rather take Carter or Hunter, whichever one
100%.
is there,
Hunter.
and then the drop off from Sanders to whoever I can get at 35, but also have Carter or Hunter in my wallet already. Like I don't see why Cleveland would take a quarterback 3rd overall. Just take the BPA, take a quarterback either at 35 or you trade up to 30, 31, 32 and you get that 5th-year option. Like that's the move. And everybody's just chalking it up that 2 quarterbacks will go ahead of us. I don't know, man. They may not. And if New England doesn't take a tackle, there's going to be nobody left by the time we pick at 7.
I will say, like, I know sometimes teams do reach like crazy for quarterbacks, but it's not as often as you think. Like the league does know whenever it's a weak quarterback class. Like go back to the year where it was Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett. Like those guys were talked about top 10. Like going all the way up into the draft. Malik Willis was going to be first overall in several mock drafts I saw. He dropped to like the 5th round. Kenny Pickett didn't go to like pick 25 or something like that. The teams don't fall for that shit, man. Like
To be
sometimes you'll have like the Daniel Joneses of the world where like, why the fuck did this
Yeah.
team go up and draft this guy at this high, you know? But it's not as often as you think. So to think that we could get a first, it's a little optimistic, Nick. I like your way of thinking. I'm all about getting all the value I
Beauty's in
can.
the eye
If
of the
they can
beholder,
do it,
my
that's
man.
great. But I don't think that they'll fall for it, man.
So I'll give you one example first off. So talking about a non-quarterback rich class, one of the draft classes that wasn't considered quarterback rich was the same draft class that yielded Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, that whole Mitch Trubisky. Like Mitch Trubisky was the garbage of that class, but still, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were in that same draft class that was considered garbage.
2018.
Yes, yes, yeah. I don't. So that same, yeah, I'm bad with years, but the same idea. And guess what? Kansas City traded up 210 to take Patrick Mahomes. So there, your point is countered. So my whole thinking is, again, people will trade up to get anything, let alone like quarterback is the most coveted position that they normally trade up for. But history shows itself. Look at New Orleans. Sean Payton traded up a first round pick to get Marcus Davenport, a defensive end, years ago, right? So people will trade up to get what they feel their team needs. So regardless, beauty is in the eye of the beholder because whatever your team needs, if you feel that there's a franchise player at that position, you will trade up to get that. So it really depends on what's there. But what benefits the Jets is if there is, if only one quarterback selected, whether it's whoever is selected, as long as it's quarterback 2 that comes at pick 7, that value increases exponentially, and that's what matters the most.
So here's the thing: if only word goes, and Campbell doesn't go, and Membou doesn't go, I assume no one's going to trade up. You got to stick and pick, but then you don't have Graham to choose from. You don't have Membou. Well, I don't know. All I'm saying is, like, worst case scenario, if you're stuck, you have to pick. A lot of your options are depleted. Are you taking Sanders? What are you doing? Are you taking a 5th to go back? Like, where are you at there, guys?
Oof, that'll be. How far is too far back to go back in the draft?
In this draft, there is no too far back as far as I'm
Right.
concerned. You get
Okay.
adequate compensation. Like if I can get 3 seconds to move back to 31 or something like that, like let's do it. Like that's as far as I'm concerned. Nick, that the Saints, that was a wild ass trade, dude. They gave up not just their first, it was 27th to get Marcus Davenport. They gave up next year's first and the first after that, and I think a couple fifths. I don't know. I remember seeing that trade. I was like, what the hell
Because
are
they
they
thought
doing?
they were getting a quarterback. Everyone thought they were getting a quarterback, and they didn't.
Well, yeah, well they fucked up.
I mean,
but that's the point. You need a team that values just one person, one player, enough to make that trade, and that's the point. Is who falls, and the position of value that has the most value is quarterback. So if there's only one quarterback selected in the first 6 picks, then that pick at 7 becomes infinitely valuable because some team, you name Pittsburgh, X, Y, and Z, whoever.
Dallas.
Yeah, they see that as their guy. They'll give up a first or more to get that, and that's all you need. It just takes 2 to tango, right? Like that's all we're looking at is as long as everything trickles down and that position is there. If only one quarterback's gone, that pick is infinitely valuable.
for every time something like that happens, then you also have a scenario like the draft with Will McDonald, where JD did want to trade down but could not find a single person that could give him anything worth talking about. So
True.
it's really hit and miss, and it really depends on the players. This is not a heavy, talented first round compared to a lot of drafts, so I don't see it happening. I mean, it could, Nick, like you said, a team could fall in love with a player and just give up whatever it takes, but
And
I don't see it happening.
and Murph, and that's why I've been saying, like, I've been going on and talking in regards to the scenario that was put out there of trading back twice, right? And I'm like, that's hard. I think so, at least. Trading even back once is hard. Who are the guys that are gonna come up, especially in this class, like you just said, Murph,
It's mad
that is
football.
not talented like that, right? So I don't know, man. I just, it might end up being that we just end up picking at 7, and everything that we've said before, whatever it is, what it is. Like, I just, at the end of the day, whatever they do, I'm gonna be happy with it, right? I'm going to welcome the individual that comes here and puts on the green and white, and I have to hope for the best for this upcoming season. And that's we're starting fresh again, man. So I don't know, like, this year for me, I could really say that, like, I'm at a loss for words, but I'm very hopeful for the future, right? And I think there's a route that we can win 9 games this year. I know I sound nuts because I was the guy last year that said 14 wins, okay, and everything, but I I don't know, man. It's just, there's something, bro. Like, there's something in the water. Damn it.
No, but why? But why? Honestly, like Johnny, like it's optimistic, but why stop there? If you have the right chemistry and you have the right scheme, it works. It doesn't matter. Like, you surround the right team, right? Like, we can run the ball. We saw Mark Sanchez run the top ranked offense, like rushing offense, right, in the league. Like,
That guy?
you don't think Justin Fields, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, you're wearing the jersey. Like, you don't think Justin Fields, who's
This jersey?
way more athletic and can run a 40 time way faster, couldn't be more effective in a similar offense. Like, you can build the right offense around it. And that's the point. It's like, we're at a point in the season, right? It's the off season. This is where the design gets implemented. And depending on who signs with you, what coaches you get, like all that stuff, and how you implement them, that's how successful the team will be. It's not on paper. Last year, everyone said, "Oh yeah," like Johnny, not to pile on, but like, yeah, like 14 wins. Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, last year on paper, the Jets looked like they would have been a 12, 14 win team, but the chemistry wasn't there because Aaron Rodgers and that group didn't have it. But this year, this team might have a different look on it, and like, maybe there's something to the chemistry that they built up in college. Like, these guys like Rucker playing with Fields, like Garrett Wilson playing with Fields for that period of time. Maybe there's something that they understand with each other. Like, there's an offbeat, off script element to football and a chemistry element to football. That's why it's a team game. Like,
Facts. When
exactly.
chemistry is bad too, it affects everything. Everything. When chemistry is good, it improves everything. So to go from bad chemistry to good, that's most of the reason why even 70% of us are optimistic, because had we not had the possibility of changing the vibe, I don't think anyone would be in these streams. I don't think anyone would be in the chat. Anyone would be calling in. We would be so over it because we are. We're chasing the carrot that is the possibility of a makeover.
So let me just throw this out there, and it's a hot button topic, but like, you put, like, people talk about this all the time, but you put Michael Jordan, right? Everyone talks about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, right?
I hate Michael
If
Jordan.
Wait, say it again, Johnny.
I hate Michael Jordan.
Oh man,
Just
you're
let you guys know.
But like,
I hate
but, like,
LeBron too.
All right, all right, well, then for this
Jordan
purpose,
fan.
it doesn't really work. But like, for everyone else, like, the debate is always like, like LeBron, Jordan, who's a better player, like whatever. But like, if you put Jordan on the teams that LeBron had, like, again, if you're willing, like Brock Purdy, right, 7th round draft pick, surrounded by tremendous talent, like if you fit the scheme and you know how to facilitate, it works. Everyone, there's only one ball, right? Like in every sport, there's only one ball. So you can only do so much. So you have to play your role. And no matter who you are and how good you are at throwing the ball, whatever, you still have to play your role. And like everyone, I think some of the best quarterbacks understand that. Like Tom Brady is nowhere near as good athletically as Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, but he won a shit ton more because he just played his role. And that's like at the end of the day, I think there's something to be said about that. And I think that's what we hope this team is going to do. So, fellas, that's kind of my rant. Pleasure. Cheers.
Hey, wait. Before
Oh,
you go, I want to know what you thought of the whole Cena Rock thing on your way out. Please tell us your take.
Oh man, you guys gotta come on to the happy hour, man. We go on before you guys. Fridays at 6. So Johnny, you guys all know. So my wife and I do the wrestling show Fridays at 6. We're doing some Sunday shows at 5 p.m. Eastern. So come on. Yeah, it's been an interesting one. It's not as big as the Hulk Hogan turn. So people have been talking about like what's bigger. It's never going to be as big as Hulk Hogan.
I mean, it was as big to me at least because I never ever
silly rabbit Johnny
thought it was gonna happen, bro. I did not think of it. I did not think it was. I can't wait till Cody Rhodes turn heel too. Let's go, baby. Give me all the heels. I'm ready. Shut your mouth and know your role is essentially what you're saying about every Jet player this year.
That's what it has to be. That's what it has to be.
Hey, they deserve it. Yeah, they deserve it after the last couple of years, man. Especially Clemens. Why don't you just smack him to Ethiopia?
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna play tight end this year, you know.
Listen, at the end of the day, and Johnny, you guys will respect this. As Jet fans, we just deserve to finish our story. So, gentlemen,
I hate Cody Rhodes, bro. That's the worst thing you can say to me.
Cheers.
Hey, have a good night, Nick.
Cheers, brother.
Good night, bud.
Later, bro.
Yeah, I hate Cody Rhodes. Just let everybody know out there. Stand that dude.
What's up, dude? Boys? I think 2025 needs a 2025 version of Gold Dust. What would that look like, Johnny?
Gold Dust. Yeah, I had a little bit of some view tonight, man. So
hey, I like that.
Nice.
You're in the right place, brother.
Oh, yeah,
Murph,
man.
I haven't heard from you in a minute. What did you think of those final takes the last 10 minutes or so? Is there anything you wanted to chime in on, or do you want to start some new topic? I do have a couple of things, but talk to me.
Well, first of all, 2025's version of Gold Dust is me there in a green Speedo with my face painted green and just ranting about the Jets in the middle of the ring. No,
how do you talk though when you say that?
Dude, I don't know. I didn't watch. Right.
What do you got? Okay,
I didn't want to try. Anyway.
I thought you might need a lifesaver, so I had one ready. And of course, when I'm wanting it to take a second, it skirts in fast, and when you know how that goes. But look at our current depth chart: wide receiver, tight ends. Do you think it is striking fear in the opposition? Talk to me about this.
Hell yeah, baby. Let's go. Because we got Garrett Wilson there. We got Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, the 6'5" monster. We got Corley, the Yak God, baby. Let's go. What are we doing? Nah, man, it ain't putting no fear in nobody right now.
Tyler Johnson.
I don't even know who that is, bro. Like this is bad. Gibson needs to be gone. I mean, and then a tight end looking scarce as anything too over there. Now, I mean, at this point, with that happening, hello Warren, right? I guess
we're gonna be like a 69 overall on Madden. Like it's gonna be bad.
We are.
We're gonna
So,
be the
like-
best 69 anybody's ever had.
Touche. Murph, you walked into that one.
Definitely did.
What I will say is, bro, that's bad. Brandon Smith, like I've seen the name for years. I don't think I've ever seen him really catch anything though. Smart, dude, I like Smart. Everything I've seen of Smart, it's just not enough. Not enough, like K-Dot would say. But Gibson, bad. Tyler Johnson, I like what I've seen. Lazard, bad. Corley, I've liked what I've seen. Not enough. So like, it's not enough altogether as a whole. Like here's my question. Are you throwing a bag at Keenan Allen?
Hell no. I don't want to, man. I want to continue to stick to the script and what they've been doing and everything. If this is what you're trying to do, you want to stay young, right? You want to be able to mold a lot of these players that are coming, that are young and that have good upside, then do that and be about that. Run the damn ball itself to the point where you're just beating the living crap out of the other team and keeping the defense at bay. It's going to be some ugly games, whatever, by any means necessary at this point. I mean, dude, seeing this, you putting this up here right now, like I'm like, damn, man, it's really that bad, you know? But again, it's why I've said that people are not going to like my take, but I want to keep Lazard. If you look out there and see what else we have, who's going to come as possibly maybe wide receiver 3 or 4? I don't know, man.
Johnny, listening to you speak is going to give me a hernia. I swear to God. I will say that if you add a good wide receiver 2 into that mix, it's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad if you add a good wide receiver 2 into that mix. Because I don't think Tyler Johnson's a bad signing. Like I think he's solid. I think Corley has potential. So, and I'm not even thinking about, I'm considering Lazard as cut. Like I don't give a shit. He's cut. Even with him cut, I still think if you add a wide receiver 2 into the mix, it's not a good group, but it's not a terrible group either.
So Keenan Allen or Tet McMillan?
I'd
Ted
rather,
Jet, baby.
I'd rather go young, man. I guess Tet, but there's other options other than Keenan Allen out there. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody off, but there's options out there. Honestly, it doesn't have to be Ted. I think maybe Matthew Golden could be a stud wide receiver 2,
I do.
Let's say you go Mason Graham or Armand Membou in the first round and you take Matthew Golden after, whatever. I don't know when he's going to go. That's the biggest question to me in this draft is how are the receivers going to go, man? Because, Hunter is going as a cornerback, right? Not that it really matters because he's going probably in the top 3 regardless. Yeah. And then you got Ted, you got like Luther Burden, you got Ibuka. Like those are probably the 3 guys that are probably first rounders. Is there going to be more? Is Golden going to make it in the first round or is he going to go in the second? Like, I don't know. That's what I'm curious about. The Trey Harrises of the world, do they creep up into the early second, late first? I mean, I don't know.
That's a good point. I actually put out some shorts lately, guys. You probably aren't monitoring shorts, but just know that I put out like the top 6 wide receivers or so. I did one on each of them with Dom's takes on that prospect. So check those out because it is a big conversation. Do 3 wide receivers go in the first round? Do 1? Do 5? there's a lot of positions to draft. So like if we could get a wide receiver at 42, maybe we can go Graham, Membou, Warren at 7 and not go Ted. It's a big difference. I like Golden ahead of Burden. We'll see. It depends on what you're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you and I do, but I don't know if the general populace does. You know what I mean? Everything I've heard up until, recently, it was like Burden was like a solidified first rounder. And then there's some people that like Golden a lot, think that he should be up in there, but, it's hit and miss. Daniel Jeremiah, I was looking at his most recent mock draft, dude. There's names that I didn't even recognize in that first round, and like high too. There was a guard that went like 16th or 17th, and I'm like, I don't even know this guy. But that just shows you the talent in the first round of this draft is really up in the air. Like
that's a good point.
Wow.
Daniel Jeremiah had us taking Membou. Mel Kiper had us taking Warren. I feel like they are forcing our fan base to be like last year where we're like pitted against each other. I think either guy would be an excellent choice.
Agreed.
And I think Graham would be an excellent choice. I think Ted McMillan would be an excellent choice. But Johnny, let me ask you this, because I mean we still have a month left. Is there a player today that you like do not want us taking? Shador, we talked about at length, but like anyone else in the top, do you want like the corner? You don't want us to take you tell me, like, is there a player you want us to steer clear? Maybe not even the guy, but the position.
Quarterback. Dart. Like this conversation that Dart at 7 and we take him. Like, is this real? I don't know. I don't. Like, I think I would have to take like a good 2 weeks off of any kind of like Jets content if that was to happen, because I would be that pissed in regards to that. Like, even talking about it right now is pissing me off and making me scratch my head because I would be upset. Like, Daniel, to what you were saying though, I would be happy with any of those names that you mentioned if we end up getting those at all. I'm one of the few guys that is high on Ted. A lot of people are not. Isn't it? But I wanted to ask this to Murph real quick. You brought it up. The Jeremiah one, right? Was that the mock that had Ted all the way almost around like 21? That he dropped that back?
I'll have to relook at it because
I think the first one, or the first or the second one that Daniel Jeremiah did have Ted around 20. It was crazy.
Yeah, and that's the reason why, like, bro, it's just so everywhere, and they know you said it perfectly. They are pinning us against each other, and it's nuts. 22, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's insane. That's the reason why I was like, that's the whole convo of the possibility of going that back and picking up so much more capital and possibly, right, like, would you guys be okay of us going that far back, getting a first next year from them and their third, and possibly Darnell Washington from Pittsburgh? Because I mean, that potentially can fix the issues that we have at tight end. Darnell Washington is a blocking machine. That dude's huge dude.
He's a big son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's
another of your Georgia guys there, Johnny. I see what you're doing. I'm watching.
you know that.
Also, I just want to point out that if we took Dart at 7, 3 or 4 weeks later, Johnny would be like, "Fuck the 9 wins, 12 wins, baby, 12-5."
No, hell no, bro. At that point, at that point, I would be like infrared, dude. I would be like, this whole team, just kill everybody that you can, and just.
I'm taking time off.
Like, I'm taking time off, bro, because I would really be pissed at that point.
Because once they pull the trigger on it, and I'm saying dart at 7, I'm not saying dart at 42 or at 73. I'm saying dart at 7. This channel is taking a break because once you pull the trigger on a move like that, you're not getting a second chance. So, like, I don't know. I honestly, I don't even think it's an option. I don't. I think if Ward falls to 7, it's an option. I think if Sanders drops to 7, it's interesting. But anyone else, and it's just stupid. It's stupid because if you go dart at 7, I think whoever is there at 42, the same. The same. It is.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, the big fella. I know you're like a dart truther, but dude, there's too many experts I've seen break him down. It doesn't even matter what I think. There's too many that I've seen break him down where they're not seeing enough out of him to warrant that high of a pick. Now, 42 or 43 or 70. Oh yeah, sure. I don't care. But honestly, like personally, I'd rather wait until the 3rd to take a QB because I really want to go all in next year. But it doesn't matter. I don't think there's one worth the top 50 this year.
Agreed. I wouldn't even be mad if we didn't get a quarterback at all this year. If I'm being very honest with you guys, like I would not be upset about that at all. I would be like, it is what it is. Like I'm good. I'd rather see the picks that they're gonna go and be guys that are Aaron Glenn guys and contribute right from the jump. Like, why not? I like Restrepo. I think that's a guy that's not really being talked about too. That's potentially in the way later rounds. He reminds me of not like Lad McConkey, right? Because I don't want to put that out there or anything like that at all. But the route running is almost the same. So some other cat to look at potentially later on.
Well, also too, if you take a quarterback, that's another starter that you're taking away from the next young quarterback.
Mm-hmm. That's
you could have
exactly what I was getting ready to say. Is like if you have trepidation on the quarterback that you're taking, any amount of trepidation, don't bother. Just get a guy that you know is going to be good because right now we need starters. Like we have holes to fill. So it's just like you were saying, Dane. If you if you're taking a quarterback, you're taking away from the rest of the team right now, and we kind of need guys on the team at the moment. Like we need starters. We have holes. So
Dude.
Unless it's a guy that you're 100% like, this is my fucking guy, don't take him in the first round. You want to take somebody like Will Howard in the 4th or something. That's fine, but like in the first round, there's no point in doing it.
Here, just to F around and really get down this rabbit hole, you have 2 options. That's all. Draft QB 3 at 7 overall, or draft nobody and you got to trade that pick to 2026. Would you rather take nobody and kick that pick to next year, have no starter? You got to wait. You got to sit on your hands. Or take Dart, McCord, Gabriel, whoever the hell you want. Jeez. After. Yeah. You know what? I'll throw fucking Sanders in there too, man.
God damn, I would say I would sit on my hands, bro. Like, that's how much I don't want a quarterback. Like, I don't. Run it for what you got right now, because my other thing too is Jordan. Like, we have him. We have no idea what the hell is going on with that. Like, we really don't. There's nothing being on out there talked about it or anything like that. Now, if we do get a quarterback this year, right, I think he's gone. Like, I think they cut ties with him, and then you got your quarterback 3 at that point. But dude, I would stick on. I mean, bro, I would stay on my hands. Like I wouldn't do it, man. I'm not on a. It's Cam Ward and everybody else, quarterback wise, to me.
Daniel,
I agree with that last sentiment from Johnny. it's hard for me to say, Dane, because I I don't know what the compensation is. Like I'll have to like I don't know if it's adequate or not. Like because you can look at like the team that you're trading for the first next year, and you can usually have a rough idea. Like, hey, probably going to be a high first, you know. Um,
But
but
you're
I
comparing it. You're
lean
comparing
towards
it to taking the wrong guy, though,
yeah,
possibly.
I lean towards waiting because I feel like you're throwing the pick away anyway if it's not Cam Ward, you know. And I'm not even 100% sure that Cam Ward's the guy, but I think he has
Mhm.
the best chance to be the guy, you know. Um, so I think that I would be leaning towards just taking that extra draft capital next year. The only problem I have with it is the timeline. Because to me, when I take a quarterback, I want to sit him. I know we've talked about this for fucking months now. I feel like, and I've been pounding this point in. We need to sit our rookie quarterback for at least a year.
Agreed.
Does Aaron Glenn have the time? If he doesn't take a quarterback this year and he waits till next year to take one, does he have the time to sit that quarterback for a year when we're going fucking 7-10? That's what I worry about.
Well, what's the barometer? Is it the fan base or is it the front office or ownership? You know, because the fan base is not even giving them this year.
Well, who makes the decisions? It's not the fan
Right.
base.
Right. And that's why I think the fan base needs to chill. They're if you don't get patient now, you're going to be forced to, and it's not going to be pretty.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm that's what I'm saying. Like I don't I get it. Like we have to. We don't have a choice in this. Like, you know, Rome wasn't just built and what is it, one day or whatever. It takes time. I don't know, bro. Like there's a potential for us to look again, maybe it's me wearing green Jets glasses and I think we're gonna get 9 wins this upcoming year, man. I really do. And Justin Fields gonna win MVP, and Murphy's gonna be pissed and flip over his desk in a moment, you know. But
Hey,
You
to
know,
be clear, I was a Fields guy.
yeah,
I was a big advocate of Fields, and then Zach Wilson came onto my radar, and I was started watching a little tape on him. I'm like, wow, that's flashy, that's fun. So I was like, you know, I'd be okay with Zach Wilson too. But I was a big Fields guy back in that draft. But after watching him have what 4 years under his belt,
three
not as much
offensive
shocking,
coordinators,
huh?
3 offensive coordinators.
if I'm not mistaken,
3 tries.
he had the
True.
31st ranked offensive line. It was that bad when he ran for like 1,100 yards. They were almost dead last. He's had a crap line.
I I think that your quarterback affects your offensive line rankings too. If you hold the ball a long time, you get sacked more, you get pressured more. That affects the rankings of your offensive line. And
I
Fields does hold the ball a little longer than he should.
I do hate that because like the metrics last year, even early on, said the Jets O line is great because Aaron gets rid of the ball. He has the least time to throw. Like he's getting it out. That's because the O line's poor, not the other way around. Like it's definitely a skewed science. Because if you have the most time, that either means yes, your O line's good, or it means you suck at processing.
Yeah. It's the
Where
same it's the same thing like on the defense, how it's hand in hand. Like the quarterback and the offensive line, it works hand in hand, just like your defensive line and your secondary work hand in hand. Like if your defensive line is creating pressure on the quarterback, then he's going to be more likely to make like bad decisions, errant passes, things like that, which is going to benefit your secondary. And if your secondary is locking down the wide receivers on the opposing team, it gives your defensive line more time to get to the quarterback. So they just work hand in hand, just like the quarterback and the offensive line do on the offense.
Yeah. I I'm getting sleepy. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
front, man.
honest,
Dude,
we're about yeah.
it hit me out of nowhere, bro. That thing hit me like a left hook. Talking about that, yo, big R.I.P. to George Foreman, man. I don't know if you guys heard, but he just passed. So 76.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Holy crap! I have a lot of gray hairs. Look at that. Damn.
Bro, I'm getting a few peppering in.
I'm still youthful as fuck. I don't know about you.
I can tell, bro. God damn it. Shit. Hey,
dude,
as long as I don't have the issues up here or anything like that, I'm good. You know.
if people wanted us to stay later though, they could have called in. I think we've fleshed it all out. We're kind of all in the same boat. Like everybody's focused on pick 7, but like second round, third round, fourth round is where we need to find starters too. Like really, we need to come away from this draft with 5 starters, whether it's 4 that are key and then a kicker late. I don't care, but like we need impact and I don't know. All I'm saying is pick the right guys. Don't worry about if you're taking a tight end too soon. If it's the right tight end, and he can be H-back, and he can be pass catcher, and he can be the 6th lineman. Just pick the right guys.
100%, man. It's so hard for me to say like Warren at 7, man. Like, I think the issue that I'm having is picking a tight end at 7. You know, it's just the position. I don't even think it's the player at that point. You know, this is tough.
I think that's about it, chat. I think we had a good stream, man. We don't have to feel bad about it. I mean, I kind of started to feel bad that we've went half as long as normal, but bro, Johnny, thanks for calling in, man. Let's let you go first, man.
I love you guys, man. I'm dying over here, bro.
People have no idea what we're laughing at. We got a private chat going that we're busting each other's balls when the other one's talking. So that just to give you a little background. Anyways, plug what you got, Johnny, because I was watching it before I came on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. Guys always coming through and showing some love. Just Worldwide, you know, we're the show before you guys and everything, right? I don't know how to do that. Mine thing to do that?
It's magic, dude. Don't worry about it.
I got the Sanchez, baby. Dirty Sanchez. Let's go. But Just Worldwide, Fridays, 7:30, right? We try to end right before you guys go on. And hey, but it ain't about me. Show these guys love. Make sure you guys hit the sub. Make sure you hit the like. You guys know they give real stuff out here. So, and again, I say this to say that 9-8, baby. We got the MVP, Justin Fields. I'm just saying that just to piss off Infrared. You guys be good, man. Go Jets.
Later.
Peace.
We won the off season. You know what? We could have done a whole lot. The thing that's given me hope is Muji is cutting good deals. Like that Brandon Stevens contract. If you haven't seen it, go look at it. It'll make you feel a lot better.
So the thing about it is like they're not jumping on big names, and that gives me hope because they know that this year is a year, like they know I would hope that we all know that this year is not the year, right? This is the culture building year. This is where you get like some feisty lunch pail type guys in here and you go to work, right? And you kind of build that foundation. And then next year you can start maybe putting the roof on, you know. And then the year after you can install the drywall and the electrical, you know, and then you got a house. So I'm just glad that they didn't jump straight into it like, hey, let's sign some big names and create some hype and do all this and that, because it's not going to do any good, dude.
And you can't get each free agency class doesn't have all the guys you need. You have to give it a couple years. Also, all of our contracts that you want to get rid of aren't expired the year you come in. Like you might have to wait till next year to get rid of another slew of shit bums. So we got rid of some shit bums and we'll get rid of some more next year, but I don't know if we'll win 9 games. I'm not worried about that though. And you will not hear me make a win prediction before late August. And even then it'll be tempered. I just want to see non-idiotic football. And if you don't have enough playmakers or it doesn't come together, you don't win the game, that's fine. But the shit I saw last year where we were favored in every game and we just were shit, that I don't want to see. And that did a number on me.
Yeah, that's rough, man. When we had 2 years in a row where we had such high expectations going into the season, and just to be let down tremendously, that was hard. That was really hard on my psyche as a fan. That's why this year the expectations are low. They should be low. There's no reason for them to be high, unless you're like a huge Fields truther. I mean, there's no reason for them to be high. Johnny is forever the optimist, but even with his super optimistic side, he's only saying 9 wins, which doesn't even guarantee a playoff spot. You know.
Good point. Very good point.
So even Johnny has his worries.
Hey, good night, Murph. Good night, chat. We'll see you next week. Boop. Later.
I love the show. I love you guys. Fucking, let's go Jets. JTS. Jets.
We can't all be beautiful.
You're in the danger zone.